Hi bestie, welcome back to Living with Ease. If you're watching on YouTube, Miss Looney is joining us today. She's sleeping on the bed next to me, which makes it extra cozy. You're so sweet, Looney Bear. I want to start off today's episode by just saying thank you so much for the overwhelming support on my last episode. I told you I was very nervous to launch my podcast, and I think that's part of the reason, besides my lack of consistency, for wanting to launch it, because I was scared, and it was just a really heartwarming and encouraging experience to have such strong support from all of you. So I just want to let you know I really am so grateful for you, and I love you so much, and thank you for being back here today. Today's episode, we're going to talk about something I have wanted to talk about with you for so long, and that is my journey to how I ended up in law school. I feel like typically when you think about a stereotypical person who goes to law school, it's someone who's always had their life together and always been driven and perfect grades, no record, all these extracurriculars. And that was the complete opposite of me. And yeah, I touched on this a little bit in last week's episode, but I was a disaster up until I turned 19, 20. I was failing out of classes in high school. I almost dropped out of college my freshman year. I was definitely taking and doing way too many drugs, and I think this is a side of me that a lot of people don't know about, and I think it's really important for me to share, because if someone could have told my younger self that it's going to be okay, and you can make mistakes and do stupid things, you can fail classes, you can do drugs, you can get arrested, and you can still turn your life around, and that would have been so valuable to me, and I think younger me needed to hear that when I felt so lost and so low. I definitely hit the lowest points of my life in the period of 15 to 19, and I thought that I was too far gone and there was no coming out of it. So if someone could have told me it's going to be okay and you can make these mistakes and still have a successful life and you can turn things around, that just would have been so helpful to me. So I hope that this episode can help someone out there. I think this episode's probably the most vulnerable I am ever going to get with you guys, because I'm spilling a lot of tea on myself, and we're really delving into every mistake I made. So I think this journey to law school, we should start in high school, where everything started to go downhill. I used to, growing up, I got really good grades and I cared about school, and I had a really great friend group. And I don't really know what happened, but I think in 8th grade, I had this group of friends that I had been friends with my whole life growing up. And one day, it's just 8th grade girl drama. One of the girls thinks you're not cool anymore, and then everyone turns on you. And I went from being this girl who had all these friends to everyone thinking I was a weirdo. And that kind of carried on to my freshman year of high school. And it sounds stupid, but when you're that young, that's very traumatizing. These girls would show up at my house to try to make fun of me. And I remember one day of freshman year, I was just I'm tired of being a weirdo, and I wanted to just fit in. And so I decided to kind of assume the role of the cool girl who didn't care. And I literally flipped a switch overnight, which is very bizarre of me. I was really into the show Skins. If you haven't seen it, I was so inspired by Effie Stoneham, and I was I want to be her. I want to be the cool girl who doesn't care. And my whole life, I've always been a very jokey, non-serious person. And I still, to this day, get called stupid all the time. People are so quick to call me dumb. I've seen all of these, threads about me saying that I, don't know how to navigate the real world. And, it's a shock that I even made it through law school. And even though I did go to law school, I'm not smart. Like, people have always called me not smart. And in high school, with that whole rhetoric going on, I kind of decided to just assume the role, because I was like, well, people want me to be stupid. People want me to like be this girl who doesn't care. So I'm just going to fit the role, and then I won't be a weirdo anymore. That being said, I remember feeling so cool the first time I smoked weed. And I do think that is where my problem started, not because of weed, but because of me being a weirdo. I smoked weed with my friend like spring of freshman year before school, and I like remember purposefully like making sure the smell of weed got on my clothes, so when I went to class people would be like, oh my god, you smoked weed before school? And I'd be like, yeah, like I don't care. And I don't even think I got high, because I didn't know how to smoke weed. I had never smoked anything before. And so I definitely wasn't even high, but I just felt really cool that I like smelled like weed in school. And I really feel like I started to fit in again after that moment, which is crazy and weird, but it gave me this new confidence, because now I was the girl who didn't care. And before I felt like the girl who cared too much. And looking back, wow, I am realizing that maybe I'm in my like second wave of loser complex before, because I guess I had a loser complex my freshman year. So that's interesting. Maybe it's a lot deeper rooted than I thought it was. But anyway, yeah, I was just smoking weed, and like it wasn't really anything that severe until my sophomore year of high school, right when I turned 15. That is when things took a darker turn, and that is when I started to really make a lot of bad decisions. I remember I did Molly for the first time. I think it was literally like a week after I turned 15, and I had never even drank alcohol before trying Molly. And I was with my friends at the time. We were at this guy's house who was like 19 or 20. I don't know why he was hanging out with 15-year-old girls, but at the time we thought he was so cool. And we actually, this is a crazy story, side note, we went with him and his friends, like these like 19, 20-year-old guys, to go buy Molly. Unbeknownst to me at the time, like I didn't really know where we were going because they didn't tell us. And this guy, he like gets out of the car, comes back in, we're driving back, and one of his friends threw a water bottle at a car behind us. Don't know why, they thought it was funny. We get pulled over, and then now I realize why we drove an hour away and he just got out of the car. I mean, I had an idea, but he is like, you have the biggest boobs in the car. Take these 2 huge bags of Molly and put them in your shirt right now. And I didn't even know what Molly was. I was literally 15. I had never even had a sip of alcohol. And I put it in my shirt because he was like, I don't know, I was under pressure, which is so stupid and so bad, and I could have gotten in so much trouble, and thank God I didn't. If my mother is listening to this, she's probably really disturbed right now, so sorry, Mother, but yeah, that did happen, and you know what? I didn't get in trouble, so it's all good now, water under the bridge. But then we went back to their house, and yeah, I tried Molly. I loved it. I mean, it was a blast. It was the happiest I'd ever felt in my entire life, and from then on, I found this new group of people who I thought I was so cool to be hanging out with. And honestly, looking back, they didn't really like me. They would always call me like the preppy girl. And I was like so desperately trying to fit in with these people who were like not really nice to me at all. But yeah, it went from doing Molly to doing Coke, and it even escalated from doing Coke. Like, I mean, name a drug, and I definitely did it in high school. And I actually got caught the first time I did Molly, because this was like back in the day when there was still, when there were still like family computers, and I was logged into my Facebook on my parents' computer, and I was like talking to a girl from the night before, and she was like, how are you feeling? And I was like, oh my God, like my cheeks hurt really bad and my teeth hurt, and like from like grinding my teeth all night. And obviously then I got drug tested, and yeah, I remember my mom, we like went to Chipotle, and she told me she knew I did Molly, and I think I did definitely get in trouble for sure, but she wasn't like mad at me. She was more like, what is going on? And yeah, then I swore I'd never do it again, but after then, unbeknownst to my parents, so once again, sorry, Mother, I was doing Molly like every single weekend, because the guy I was dating, like that was our thing, like once it hit the weekend, we would do Molly. And then Coke was like our weak drug. But like, it's just so crazy because I was 15 and I thought I was so old and like so mature, but like I was doing these very harsh drugs, and I really do think that that's probably messed up my brain chemistry a little bit because my brain was developing and I was doing things that like really mess with your serotonin receptors. Like the fact that I did Molly every weekend for like a year straight is really disturbing. Aside from the drug use I was doing with my high school boyfriend, I also wanted to impress him and his circle by failing classes because they didn't care about school, and so I thought I should no longer care about school. So I literally would purposefully fail classes, which is so stupid. I would also get detention on purpose because I knew like if you had detention or in school suspension, like you were probably cool. So I was like a freak. But obviously these decisions are hurting my future because I went from getting really good grades my whole life to like my grades tanking. My happiness is tanking because I'm like doing these substances that are not good for your brain. I got in a lot of trouble with my parents and I almost got sent to rehab, but when I was on the phone with the rehab center, I told them that like I would not go, and this rehab center like didn't accept people who didn't want to go, and I did not want to go. So I remember I was like on complete lockdown for a whole summer after junior year, and I got drug tested like daily, and that was the lowest point, the second lowest point I think in my entire life was after I had this whole week of doing something, and then I got in trouble, ended with me in the hospital, and then on lockdown. That's all I'll say now, and maybe I'll get into that another time, but all I'll say is I was 16, and I did not realize the severity of things, and I didn't know what I was doing. Then things got a little better after I was on this lockdown because I was getting drug tested every day. This is when Celia, my best friend, if you don't know, Celia's my best friend. We've known each other since we were 9, but we became really, really, really close. Like, we were still pretty, like, best friends in high school, but, like, became, like, sister best friends, I think I would say, like, junior year of high school. I owe a lot to Celia and to my parents for making sure I didn't go down a really dark path. And so senior year, I mean, I would do, like, Adderall here and there for fun. I feel like because I was, like, getting drug tested all the time, like, I wasn't really making these crazy mistakes anymore because I had someone to hold me accountable. I was healing from this breakup, which I'll do a whole episode on breakups because I did not handle breakups well, clearly. I still like purposefully didn't try on the SATs because I was like, whatever. I didn't even study for them. And then it came like time to apply to colleges. All I know is I remember getting my acceptance letters and I only got 3. And they were to these random schools that I did not want to go to. I didn't want to go to any of these schools at all, but I didn't get into any schools. And I remember that being such a sad time in my life because I saw all of my friends getting accepted to like their dream schools and being so excited. And I so vividly remember, and this like actually still makes me like really sad for myself, on graduation day, like high school graduation, I remember like there was like a graduation party and we all got ready together and all my friends were like so excited to be going to their dream schools and like so excited to be graduating high school. And I remember like I just went home and like sobbed because I was going to a college I didn't even want to go to, that I barely got into, and I like had no aspirations in life, like no plan to go anywhere. And I like felt like not even jealous of my friends, it was more I just felt so alone because I was like, wow, I did all these stupid things and now I'm like just the one being left in the dust because I decided to not care in high school. And it's like this overwhelming feeling of regret, and I'm like realizing that maybe it would have been better to actually try my classes and not fail things on purpose and maybe focus more on getting good grades than figuring out what drug I'm gonna do on the weekend. And like, yeah, that was just like a really, really low point for me, and I was so sad. Then we get to freshman year of college, and that was definitely the lowest point of my entire life. I feel like everyone says like college is supposed to be the best 4 years of your life and freshman year is such a blast. And I knew it wasn't going to be fun for me because let me paint a picture of my college for you. It was in this tiny town. All the town had besides the actual campus was a Walmart that was like 30 minutes away, like 2 pizza places and like a bar. And that was like the whole town. And it was like in the mountains in the middle of nowhere. And it was also an extension of my high school. So like I feel like a lot of times when you go to college, it's like gives you an opportunity to grow and meet new people. But I'm with the same people who have known me and known who I have been for the past 4 years. And it wasn't like an opportunity to really reinvent myself or like move on from the person I was in high school, because I feel like I had such this image of being this girl who did all these things that I kind of wanted to hold that image. So even though I told you I was like senior year, I mean, I was on lockdown having a drug test every day, so I wasn't really making bad decisions. The second I got dropped off freshman year of college, I went like right back into like crazy girl Callie. And I also remember I have like gotten homesick my entire life. Like I get homesick so easy, and I remember like sobbing when I got dropped off. My college was only like an hour and a half from home, but I was so sad and I felt so far away. And like I remember one of my friends that I knew from high school was throwing a party, and I was feeling so sad because my parents had just dropped me off and I was in this random uncomfortable place, and I knew people, but like I didn't know anyone who I was like surrounded with in this dorm. And so I went to this party, and it was like people from high school, but also like mixed in like other people from this school. I felt so free because I no longer was getting drug tested and I could do whatever I wanted. And of course, I wanted to keep the cool girl image rolling. So I started doing a ton of coke in college, like a ton of coke. And that started with this night at this party. And I remember everyone like being so like thinking it was so funny, like the amount of lines I was doing. And that's how the school was. Like the school was like not a normal party school. Like it was a party school on another level. You would go every single day of the week, and it wasn't normal going out. It wasn't like we were just like drinking and having fun. No, we were doing like having coke benders and staying up till 7 a.m. and lighting things on fire in the kitchen because we're so out of our minds. Like my friends that I surrounded myself with at this school did not go to class. And so I started to not go to class. And then no one told me like, because I didn't have anyone to force me to go. Like I really took like being on my own to like a whole new level. And I was just like, well, I don't have to do anything. And I mean, you do kind of have to go to class because like I had to withdraw from several of my classes because I was going to fail because I had missed too many classes. I think my GPA my freshman year was like a 2.2. And it was because once again, like I could have tried and I could have cared, but I just didn't want to. I thought it was so much cooler to take the other route. I would literally show up to class and think it was so funny, like still drunk and coked out with like blood all over my shirt from like a bloody nose. And I would think that was like funny. And everyone else at the school like also was kind of like that. So it was just like not a good environment to be in. And I don't want to blame other people for my actions. But all I will say is it doesn't help. But that was on me. But like it doesn't help. Because like it's just very normalized. Like the normal thing to do there, it was more normal to not go to class than to go to class. Anyway, things got really dark and this became the lowest point of my life when I started to do a lot of Xanax on top of Coke and was mixing them. And I started to just do a lot of really stupid and embarrassing things and not remember them. And it got so bad that I remember one night I was up with my friend and I was like so depressed and like just so out of it. I was like, let's just go, let's pack up all of our things and let's drive to California and just leave because I cannot be here anymore. And we came this close to actually doing it. I don't know how far we would have actually made it, But we were like gonna like just cut all ties with everyone and just run away. And I'm really glad I didn't do that. But that's like how dark of a place I was in. I was so depressed because of course I was. All I was doing drugs every single day. And I had no aspirations in life. I had no goals. I did not care about anything except like, no, I literally did not care about anything. And honestly, my spring semester of freshman year, I don't remember. All I know is it led to me having like a full-blown mental breakdown that ended with me in the hospital and my friends calling my parents and being like, you need to pick her up because she is like not okay. And they were like scared for me to stay there any longer. Even like, and these are my friends who are also doing all these drugs. And like, so that's just like how severe and how mentally not okay I was. Like people were like, you need to get her out of here. Like this is not normal. And I remember my parents picked me up at like 9 p.m. or something. And I was totally Xanaxed and coked out. Like I barely remember them driving me home. And I didn't even really know what was going on. And I was so confused why they picked me up. But I also wasn't upset to be going home because I hated being at this college. Like I would go home like a lot of weekends because I didn't want to be there. Like the weekends that I decided to not go out and do drugs, I would go home. And so I was happy to be home, but I was confused. And I don't even know how my professors allowed me to do school online because this was before the whole like online school thing. But a lot of my professors knew what was going on with me too because it was a small school. And I remember like specifically my Spanish teacher was very concerned about me. And like I had to have several meetings with the dean, like convincing the dean that I was okay, which is like so embarrassing. But they let me, after this big mental breakdown, finish school online. And I remember just like feeling so low because now I'm sitting at home at my parents' house, coming down from drugs. I'm seeing all my friends partying and like having fun. I'm like, why can't I just be like a normal person who can like have fun partying and like, I don't know. I just felt so lost and I felt embarrassed. And all I knew was that I could not go back to that school. Like once I started to come off all of the drugs, I got put in drug counseling, I got put in therapy, and I started to heal. I realized that I could not go back to that school. I had hit the lowest point in my life. Like I did not care about anything, like to a really severe point when I was making very dangerous decisions. And I knew I couldn't go back. So it was either like I was ready to just drop out of school and call it a day because I would rather drop out than go back to the school, and I did not know what to do. And so I was like looking into all these options, and I found this program where you could go to Hawaii for a semester. So I was going to do that, but then that still led with me having to go back to the school after the semester was over, which I just like could not stomach doing. Like I didn't ever want to set foot there again. And so I was with Celia in Nantucket, and she was also transferring because she also went to a different school than me freshman year. And she told me last minute, oh, I'm transferring to Suffolk University. And thank God she told me because there was only like a day left to apply, to the point where I had to actually go in person, do an in-person interview at Suffolk University in Boston. And I remember like the day before I was visiting Celia in Nantucket, I got on the next ferry home, then I drove home, and then I had to drive up to my school the next day and go get a transcript, and they almost didn't have the transcript available, and you needed that for this meeting, but then I was able to get it. And also like this transcript, I'm like, oh, the transcript's like 100 withdrawals and like a 2.2 GPA. This is gonna look really good. I'm sure I'll get in. But I had the meeting, I made it on time. And I had the meeting with admissions at Suffolk University, and for some reason they took me. Not saying like Suffolk is like the best school ever, but like I didn't really think any school would let me transfer, but Suffolk took me. And this is really like when my life changed and turned around. I hit the lowest point of my life that led me to have to get out of that environment and went to Suffolk. I decided I was going to start trying and start caring, and I just didn't want to be this person anymore that didn't care. And I haven't done drugs since freshman year of college, and I never will again. I don't have a problem with like other people around me do, but I just never will again because first of all, I have no desire. Second of all, I don't think they work well with my brain. I don't ever want to get in a situation that I was in like when I was in my lowest point of life. And so anyway, I like am finally like in this healthy mindset, and I decide, okay, I want to do something with my life. And you had to declare a major your sophomore year. And so I decided to go pre-med, which makes no sense because I am so bad at math and I'm so bad at science. And I remember my dad warning me that like they're going to try to weed people out your first day of chem. And my first day of chem, I went in and I was like all excited to go. And I remember the professor being like, if you don't know this, this, or this, you should leave right now. And I had like tears in my eyes and I was like, I have to leave. And I ran out of the classroom, which is like really embarrassing. Okay, maybe I didn't run, but like I sped walked with like tears streaming down my face. And I went to my advisor and I was like, I can't be pre-med. I don't know what I'm doing. And like I felt myself start to spiral again. And I was like, oh no, like I thought I had a plan and now I don't have a plan. And that is when she was like, well, what do you like to do? Like, what do you feel like your strengths are? My strength has always been in writing and reading. I've loved to read. I have been like a reader since I was so little, and I've loved to write. And so I was gonna like maybe do an English major, but then she was like, well, why don't you try our pre-law program? I feel like that would be a really good fit for you. And I forgot to mention, when I was really little, I read this Jodi Picoult book that like there was like this like struggling lawyer, and it for some reason inspired me to want to be a lawyer. And then I was like telling someone on the bus about it on a field trip, and he was like, well, my dad's a lawyer and it's the biggest mistake he said he ever made in his life. And so then I like turned the idea off, but then this like brought a light bulb on, and I was like, wait, I remember like I used to want to be a lawyer, like why don't I be a lawyer? And that just seemed like such a set goal for me at the time. I was 19, but I had had no aspirations before and no plans with my life, and now I can say, okay, I'm going to do this pre-law program, then I take the LSAT, then I go to law school, then I take the bar, then I became a lawyer. And that just felt so good to have a plan, because in my entire life, I had never had a plan at all, and I had no goals, and I didn't see myself going anywhere. And now I could see myself going somewhere, and that's when my life like really changed around, because I finally had goals and I finally cared about something. And I mean, I'm just so grateful that I hit the lowest point of my life my freshman year of college, because let's say I didn't have this crazy mental breakdown and I didn't have to go home, and it was just like I was like sad, but like not too sad and not too low, I probably would have stayed at that school and kept doing drugs. I probably would have ended up being like some random major and like been unhappy and never grown into the person I am today. So it's crazy to say, but I'm so thankful for all the mistakes I've made, and I'm so grateful I hit that low point, because I think it really takes hitting your lowest point to realize like, oh my God, like something needs to change. And I've never been so depressed in my life. Like I did not care about anything, and I'm so grateful that happened, because it pushed me to like really realize like I needed to make a change. And I do think that while of course, like I said, I healed over that summer with drug therapy and like regular therapy and like being home with my family and not doing drugs and healing from all of that and spending time with people and surrounding myself with people who inspired and encouraged me to do good things, I also think the thing that kept me on track, because I had gotten on track and been good before, but I still didn't have any goals. And I think what got me on track again for good was finally having this goal and finally seeing a future and deciding I can work towards things. And once I was at Suffolk, I went from 2.2 GPA, I graduated Suffolk with a 3.9 GPA, and I tried so hard at school and actually cared so much and realized like, actually I am smart. And still to this day I have really bad imposter syndrome, and I'll do another episode about that. And I'll never call myself smart or I'll never believe that I'm smart deep down, because I think, I don't know, I just have like raging imposter syndrome. And like, even like when I passed the bar, I got into law school, I'd be like, oh, I just got lucky. But actually now I like put in the work and then it happened. But point being, if you're in a really low point in your life right now, it's not, obviously I don't want to say like, obviously when you're depressed, it's really hard to do anything and get yourself out of anything. But I mean like, if you're like in the lowest point in your life and you're just like, you do not care about anything at all, I just want to say like, it can get better. And I really think trying to figure out some goal for yourself, that was at least just so helpful for me. And it really was like one night I was this mess, and the next day, like, I decided I wasn't. And I don't want to say it's that easy, but I think separating yourself from people who encourage you to make bad decisions, setting a goal for yourself. This is all to say, and I don't want to sound like a motivational speaker, but even if you feel like you're at your lowest point right now, you can turn it around. And I really do think like actually setting a goal for myself really helped with that a lot, because I saw a future. And it doesn't have to be like a big goal that you set for yourself. You can set like a month goal, like something you want to achieve, whether it's like, I want to get this grade, or I want to read this many books, or I want to walk this many days of the week, or I don't know, anything to give your life a purpose. Because I think the common theme of my life, which sounds really sad and dark, but I was really sad in a really dark place, is I felt like my life had no purpose at all. And I felt like I served no purpose on this planet and had no purpose. And I think the second that you give yourself a purpose, that's what helped me and got me out of my rut. And I know this was kind of a long and rambly story of how I made it to law school, but I think it's a really important story to share with you. Because, I mean, if you told 15-year-old me or 18-year-old me that I graduated law school, passed the bar, and had a successful social media career, I would not believe you, because I didn't think I was going to amount to anything ever, and I couldn't even like see the future more than like a second ahead of me. But like I said, I really am so grateful that I hit that low, because it led me to figuring out my life. But yeah, I mean, as far as like getting to law school, the rest is kind of history. I graduated Suffolk, got a good enough score on the LSAT, and got into Brooklyn Law. And if you want to hear another episode about my actual experience in law school, because that's a whole other story, I would love to sit down and talk to you about that in maybe the next episode. If you want, you can DM me on Instagram and like tell me or give me ideas of what you want me to talk about on episodes. I have kind of like a rough 10 podcast plan, but I mean, I'm here with you every week. So yeah, if there's anything you want to hear me talk about, let me know. But all this to say, I love you. And if you're struggling, I promise it is going to be okay, and things are going to get better, and you can make mistakes and you can mess up, and you can still be okay. I do want to say I obviously am privileged and grateful in the fact that I had a family who was very supportive and who cared about me a lot and helped me get out of that. I don't want to say like it's that easy, like I had a very strong support system. I still do think that you can turn your life around and you can make a change, and it's really never too late. That sounds really cheesy, but I'm going to stop rambling now before I get even cheesier. So that's my story, how I made it to law school, from, you know, doing Molly every weekend to studying for the bar. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. I love you so much, and I will see you next week. Bye.